All right, what a match for a good while there. It was super even, but then they kind of broke away, and mildly intoxicated, everyone's favorites are kind of getting edged out by a team that no one really knew that much about until today.
Yeah, but as soon as I saw Mildly Intoxicated had Gila's on the field, I was like, oh, not again. Every time we see a Gila team come out, it's just, it doesn't do as good as it looks on paper.
I don't know. I like how well the Gila team that did that particular match. Their drones like never died from the smart bombs. I think that Verge just had like some awesome hero tankers. They had the Oniro stay up for almost an eternity. They had the Kronos with surviving with no health. I think his ship was just a fiery wreck, just floating through space before it finally collapsed. Like, and that amount of time, even though the ship still dies, that's potential DPS that could have been spent on another ship.
So people either seem to love or hate Helas. Like, why do people bring them? What's the upside for Helas?
So Helas with the new damage mod for drones, it's a low slot module, and they have a straight shield tank with the resistance bonuses and drone damage, and I believe health and speed bonuses, maybe one of those two. So they can fit a tremendously large tank with an ASB, oversized, and still fit out a full rack of damage, and they have the versatility of drones. Like, drones are a difficult weapon to use. I think that's why a lot of people don't like them, but they have a lot more range than a lot of other weapons. They have different E-War you can fit in the drone space. You can do all sorts of different things with drones that you can't do with typical guns.
The Gila is a very versatile ship, but I don't like sentry drones. I think it's so easy to mitigate the damage from them, either by shooting the drones or getting out of their range. I just don't think they perform as well as they look. You're looking at it on paper, and you're like, wow, the Gila can do all this stuff, and it does this much DPS. But in practice, it doesn't seem to ever do that maximum DPS. It's just really hard to use.
It's also risky using a weapon system that someone can shoot and kill.
Yes.
I mean, if you run out of drones...
Like a ship.
Well, like you can't shoot the guns off a ship.
That's true. The thing is that like...
Yet. Carry on.
Huge drop right there, guys. No, so the thing about sentries is when you have this cloud of sentries, people are like, my collective damage from these three ships is this number. My DPS should be this number. Nobody does that with any other ship. It's not like I have 3 Kronos, and my DPS from each Kronos is this much, so I should be able to always apply all the DPS additively from all 3 Kronos. Sometimes something's going to be out of position, that sort of thing. So I think that just because of the way people mentally connect to drones, as you should be able to control this massive blob of cannons in space, just sort of makes it feel underwhelming, when I think it's just as good as any other faction cruiser you could bring to the tournament. Is there a better faction cruiser that you like above the Gila?
Have you seen Gilas do good at all in the tournament?
There were some strong 6-man Gila teams. Do you think there's a better faction cruiser for you to take?
No.
Exactly.
But I think that's all situational. You can't just say that the Gila's always the best faction cruiser to bring either. So
I think it's good in more situations than any other faction cruiser.
I can't say if there's not a better faction cruiser. I'm not going to just make such a blanket statement. Because it's all situational.
Do you feel like there's a cruiser that you would like to use more in a certain situation?
It's all situational. And I don't think Gilas have done well at all in the tournament.
All right, girls.
So,
we love
Verge
each other.
Collapse.
It's just a thing.
Says him.
But Verge Collapse is the real deal.
They are the real deal, and I think I've always chosen them to lose. Like every time I feel really bad now because they're proving me wrong, slapping me around every time. They're like a lesser known corporation.
Yeah.
They're PvP focused. I think we've seen them in wormholes, but I don't know if they're like a primarily wormhole corporation.
Wormhole, low sec, something.
They're really kind of all over the place. Just looking at their killboard stats, they pop up all around Eve. So they're the real thing, man.
So we have 4 matches left of this Alliance tournament. We have the last quarterfinal match, which is Agony versus Noli Secunda. Noli Secunda also flying a little bit under the radar and just beating out everyone. And then we have basically 2 semifinals and a final. That's it. Then the Alliance tournament is done.
We're getting down to the end.
Yep. So we have Exodus versus Noli Secunda, Unreloaded versus Pandemic Legion, which is the semifinal we know of. The second semifinal is Verge Collapse and an unnamed team. We're going to find them in just about 5 minutes when Noli Secunda and Exodus duke it out. And then we have the final at 21:30 Eve. So stay around. We have CCP Flying Scotsman here, although we will be switching you out for CCP Hilmar. And then we will have CCP Unifex. So we have a quick run of guests. Of course, there's going to be a little bit more time between the matches, so we'll get to talk some more. So, do you gentlemen have any questions for Flying Scotsman before he leaves?
Be nice.
So now I might have a little insider information over how the one part of the tutorial might be being overhauled in the future. Do you think that you're going to go through and overhaul like the whole new player experience, like the individual career lines and the Sisters of Eve epic arc and that sort of thing?
We're going to look at it all as a whole. I like the career agents. I think they actually work well, but we need to tell people you get neat stuff from them, because you really don't know you get neat stuff. And these things can set you up to start. But we have to look at, the beginning tutorial all the way through and seeing if it all makes sense. We're just doing a massive holistic view on how we train people about Eve.
So what you were saying earlier, one of the other breaks, is that it seems to make a big difference in people staying with Eve if they join player organizations. Now, I haven't done the new player tutorial in years. So I have no idea what it's doing, but does it at all encourage people to go out and find player corporations to join?
So we briefly mentioned it. We don't do as good a job as we could. That is one of the things we are looking at probably for winter, is helping people get into corps, teaching them about corporations, making it easier for them to get into them, making it easier for corporations to find people and bring them in.
Well, the Corp Finder UI was a great overhaul, but I think we have a match ready for us.
That's absolutely right, Michael Bolton. Psychic you. We have Exodus versus Noli Secunda. Who do you think is going to win it?
I'm going to go with team send me angry messages when I log into TQ, Noli Secunda.
I hate being wrong, but I'm going to have to be the contrarian to you, Michael Bolton, here. I'm going to go with Exodus.
It's good that you know when you disagree with me, you're wrong.
I'm going to go with Exodus as well.
I'm going to go with Noli Secunda. I think they're very impressive.